The storm hit without warning, as they often did in the Montana backcountry. One moment I was enjoying a peaceful evening hike near my cabin. The next I was caught in a deluge that turned the forest path into a muddy river. I was making my way back when I heard it, a sound that didn't belong, not thunder, not falling trees, but something mechanical. A whine of failing engines followed by an impact that shook the ground beneath my feet. Instinct overrode common sense. I ran toward the sound instead of away from it. Through the sheets of rain, I saw the crash site, a crater carved into the hillside, and at its center, something that definitely wasn't from around here. The craft was small, maybe the size of a sedan, with smooth lines and a hull that shimmered with colors I couldn't quite name. Parts of it were on fire despite the rain, and acrid smoke poured from a massive breach in the side. Then I heard the crying, not human crying. The sound was higher pitched, more musical, but unmistakably distressed. I approached carefully, pulling my jacket over my head against the heat. Through the breach, I could see movement, something small, huddled in what looked like a pilot's seat designed for a child. "Hello," I called out. "Are you hurt? Can you understand me?" The crying stopped. A face appeared in the breach, small, delicate, with large eyes that reflected the firelight like a cat's. Her skin was pale blue, almost luminescent in the darkness. Hair or something like it floated around her head as if underwater, defying gravity. She looked maybe 7 or 8 in human terms, though I had no idea how alien aging worked. "Help," she said in accented but clear English. "Please help, ship is dying, I am stuck." "Okay, stay calm, I'm coming in." I squeezed through the breach, ignoring the heat from the damaged systems. Inside was a cramped cockpit with controls that made no sense to me. The girl was strapped into a seat with some kind of harness that had locked during the crash. "Fire bad," she whimpered, pointing to sparks shooting from a damaged panel. "Reactor unstable, will explode. How long do we have? Minutes, maybe less. Right, let's get you out." I examined the harness, crystalline buckles that seemed to respond to touch. After several failed attempts, I found the release mechanism. The harness retracted, and I caught the girl as she fell forward. She was lighter than expected, maybe 40 pounds despite being child-sized, her arms wrapped around my neck with desperate strength. "Hold on tight," I said, turning back toward the breach. The ship was making ominous sounds now, a rising whine that promised nothing good. I squeezed through the opening with the girl clinging to me and ran. Didn't look back, didn't slow down, just ran through the rain and mud until my lungs burned and my legs screamed. The explosion lit up the night sky. Shockwave hit seconds later, throwing us both to the ground. I twisted mid-fall to take the impact, the girl still clutched to my chest. We lay there in the mud, gasping as debris rained down around us. "You okay?" I managed. She nodded against my chest, trembling. "You saved me, stranger saved me." "Yeah, well, couldn't just leave a kid in an exploding spaceship. That's like the first rule of being a decent person." I sat up carefully, checking her for injuries. "My name's Ryan, Ryan Mitchell." "What's yours?" "I am Xylara, daughter of House Velthorin." She looked up at me with those enormous eyes, silver with hints of violet, filled with tears and something that might have been awe. "You are very brave. Or very stupid. The jury's still out." I stood, lifting her with me. "Come on, my cabin's about a mile from here. We need to get you warm and dry." She didn't argue, just clung to me as I carried her through the storm. By the time we reached my cabin, we were both shivering despite the summer warmth. Inside, I set her on the couch and wrapped her in blankets while I got a fire going. She watched my every move with those enormous eyes, occasionally making soft sounds that might have been her language. "Are you hurt anywhere?" I asked once the fire was crackling. "Do your people, bleed or anything I should know about?" "I am unharmed. You protected me." She pulled the blanket tighter. "But I am very far from home, and my ship is destroyed. Do you have family? Can you contact them?" Xylara's eyes filled with fresh tears. "I was traveling with my guardian. She was teaching me to pilot, but when the storm affected our systems, she put me in the escape pod and stayed with the main ship." Her voice broke. I do not know if she survived. I'm sorry, kid. I sat beside her feeling helpless. Is there any way to contact your people? Let them know where you are. The ship had distress beacon if it activated before explosion. She trailed off uncertainly. But I do not know if it reached them. We are very far from home space. How far? Many light years. We were on survey mission mapping systems. She looked around the cabin with curiosity. This is Earth, yes, the human homeworld. Yeah, this is Earth, Montana specifically, pretty remote part of it. I stood and moved to the kitchen area. Are you hungry? I have no idea what your people eat, but I've got soup, bread, some fruit. Human food is safe for Velthorans. Biologies are compatible, she hesitated, but I should not impose, you have already done so much. Don't be ridiculous, you're a kid who just survived a crash, you're eating. I heated up some chicken soup and brought it to her with bread. Here, try this. She ate cautiously at first, then with increasing enthusiasm. This is good, warm and flavorful. Family recipe, well, canned family recipe, but still. I made myself coffee and sat across from her. So, Zylara of House Velthorin, what exactly were you and your guardian surveying out here? Potential colony worlds, new resources, my people are explorers. She paused. We mean no harm, survey only, not conquest. Good to know, Earth's had enough problems without adding alien invasion to the list. I smiled to show I was joking. How old are you? By your calendar, approximately 9 years, old enough to begin learning navigation and piloting. She looked down at her empty bowl. But not old enough to survive alone if beacon did not work. The beacon worked, I'm sure of it. I had no idea if this was true, but she needed hope. Your people will come, until then you're safe here. She looked at me with such trust it made my chest ache. You are very kind, Ryan Mitchell. You are, what is word, honorable. Just doing what anyone should do, taking care of someone who needs help. We talked for another hour as she warmed up. She told me about her world, a planet of floating cities and crystal forests orbiting a blue star, about her family, noble house of explorers and scientists, about her guardian, Kuravel, who was teaching her to follow in their tradition of mapping the unknown. Eventually, exhaustion claimed her. She fell asleep on the couch, still wrapped in blankets, her hair like tendrils floating gently around her face. I covered her with an extra blanket and settled into the armchair nearby, planning to keep watch in case she needed anything. That's where I was when the ships arrived. The sound woke me, a thrumming that rattled the windows and made my teeth ache. I jumped up and looked outside. 3 ships hung in the sky above my cabin. Not the small craft Zylara had crashed in, but massive vessels that glowed with internal light, each easily the size of a football stadium. They hovered silently despite their size, defying physics in ways that made my brain hurt. Oh shit, I breathed. Zylara stirred on the couch. Ryan, what is? She saw the ships through the window and her eyes went wide. They came, they found me. Yeah, they definitely found you with extreme prejudice by the looks of it. As we watched, beams of light descended from the largest ship and figures materialized on the lawn, not transported exactly, more like they solidified from the light itself. There were a dozen of them. Most wore armor that seemed to be made of liquid metal, carrying weapons that hummed with barely contained energy. They moved with military precision, forming a perimeter around my cabin. But 3 figures stood apart. They wore robes instead of armor, deep purple and silver that seemed to shift in the pre-dawn light. The tallest was male, at least 7 feet, with the same luminescent blue skin as Zylara but more angular features. The other 2 were female, equally tall, with hair that floated like Zylara's but in shades of silver and gold. The male stepped forward. When he spoke, his voice carried despite the distance, translated by some technology I couldn't see. Human dwelling, we are here for the child Zylara. Produce her immediately unharmed or face the consequences of your actions. Well, that's not ominous at all, I muttered. Zylara grabbed my hand. Do not be afraid. That is my father, Lord Velthorin, he is. How do you say overprotective? Overprotective, Xylara, there are 3 warships outside. That's beyond overprotective. That's ready to level the continent protective. He worries. She moved toward the door. Come, I will explain everything. They will not harm you. Are you absolutely sure about that? She squeezed my hand. You saved me. They will honor this. Come. Against my better judgment, I followed her outside. The armored soldiers tracked us with their weapons, but none fired. The 3 robed figures stood perfectly still, watching. As soon as Xylara appeared, the tall male's composure cracked. Xylara, Papa. She ran toward him, and he dropped to his knees, catching her in an embrace that seemed to contradict his intimidating presence. The 2 females, her mothers or aunts, I guessed, joined the embrace, and for a moment the heavily armed military presence faded into a family reunion. Then Lord Velthorin looked up at me, still holding his daughter. His eyes were the same silver violet as hers, but much colder. You are the human who had my daughter. I'm the human who rescued her from a crashed ship before it exploded, I corrected, trying to keep my voice steady. She was stuck, scared, and about to be caught in a reactor breach. I pulled her out. One of the female's silver hair, kind eyes stepped forward. Is this true, little one? Xylara nodded vigorously. Ryan saved me, Mama Saren. The ship was failing. Fire was spreading. He came through the breach and freed me from the harness when it would not release. Then he carried me away before the explosion. He protected me from the blast, took me to his home, gave me food and warmth and safety. She looked at me with absolute trust. He is hero. The silence stretched. The armored soldiers exchanged glances. The 3 nobles studied me with expressions I couldn't read. Finally, Lord Velthorin stood, still holding Xylara. He approached me, and I had to fight the urge to step back. Up close, he was even more intimidating, easily 7.5 feet with a presence that suggested barely contained power. You saved my daughter's life. Yes, sir. Why? I blinked. I'm sorry. Why did you save her? She is not your species, not your concern. You had no obligation to risk yourself, yet you entered a failing ship, pulled her free, shielded her with your own body from the explosion. Why? Because she was a kid in trouble. That's all the reason I needed. The second female, golden hair, sharper features, laughed. A simple answer. I like this human. Lord Velthorin continued to study me. Among my people, there is a law older than our civilization, a life debt. When one saves another, especially a child, a bond is formed, an obligation that transcends politics or species. He placed his hand over his heart. You saved my daughter, Ryan Mitchell. By the laws of House Velthorin, you are now under our protection. Our resources are yours. Our enemies are yours. Our honor is bound to you. That's really not necessary. I just did what anyone would. You did what a person of honor does, the silver-haired woman interrupted gently. My name is Saren, first bonded of House Velthorin. This is Lyris, second bonded, and you've met my bond husband Torin, she smiled. You saved our daughter. We are eternally in your debt. I don't want a debt. I'm just glad she's okay. Xylara pulled away from her father and took my hand again. See, Papa, I told you he was honorable. He took care of me, made me soup, let me sleep safely, promised my people would come. Torin's expression softened slightly. You showed my daughter kindness when you could have done anything else, turned her over to your authorities, demanded payment, used her as hostage. His voice hardened. Many would have chosen those paths. Then many people are assholes. Look, I'm just a guy with a cabin in the woods. I'm not looking for rewards or debts or intergalactic protection. I'm just glad Xylara's safe and with her family. The 3 nobles exchanged looks that seemed to communicate volumes. Finally, Lyris spoke. He truly doesn't understand what he's done, does he? Most humans don't, Saren agreed. They see individual actions, not political ramifications. It's rather refreshing. Torin stepped closer. Ryan Mitchell, whether you wish it or not, you have earned the gratitude of House Velthorin. We are one of the 5 great houses of the Velthorin Empire. Our influence spans 17 systems. Our word carries weight in the Galactic Council, and now that influence protects you. What does that mean exactly? It means, Saren said gently, that you have powerful friends. If you ever need help, anything from medical aid to political asylum to military intervention, you need only call on us. We will answer. Lyris smiled. It also means you're invited to visit our homeworld. Xylara would love to show you the crystal forests, and we'd be honored to host the man who saved our daughter. We could go swimming in the gravity pools, Xylara said excitedly. And I could show you my collection of star charts, and you could meet my tutors and slowly, little one, Torin said with affection. Let the human process. I looked at these aliens, this powerful, noble house, offering me friendship and protection because I'd done the basic, decent thing of helping a child in need. It was overwhelming and surreal and somehow felt right. I appreciate all of this truly, but I have one question. I looked at Torin. What happened to Kuravel, Xylara's guardian? Grief flickered across all three adults' faces. The main ship was lost, Saren said quietly. Kuravel did not survive, but she ensured Xylara reached safety. Her sacrifice will be honored. Xylara's grip on my hand tightened. She saved me, put me in the escape pod, told me to be brave. I knelt down to her level. Then you honor her by living well, okay? By learning everything she wanted to teach you, by becoming the explorer she believed you could be. Tears, or something like them, spilled down her cheeks. She threw her arms around my neck. Thank you, Ryan, for everything, for saving me, for being kind, for caring when you didn't have to. Anytime, kid, anytime. When she pulled back, Torin placed his hand on my shoulder. The gesture was surprisingly gentle. You have given me back something I thought lost. There is no greater gift. He reached into his robes and pulled out something that looked like a crystal pendant. Take this. It's a communicator keyed to our house frequency. If you ever need us for any reason, activate it. We will come. I took the pendant, feeling its warmth against my palm. I don't know what to say. Say you'll visit, Xylara pleaded. Say you'll come see my world, please. I looked at her hopeful face, at the three nobles who traveled who knows how far to retrieve their daughter, at the ships overhead that represented power beyond my comprehension. Yeah, I said, I'd like that. The smile that lit up Xylara's face could have powered a small city. An hour later, after coordinates had been exchanged and promises made, I stood in my yard watching the ships prepare to depart. Xylara waved from the boarding ramp of the largest vessel, flanked by her parents. Ryan. She called one last time. Don't forget, visit soon. I won't forget, I called back. Take care of yourself, kid. The ships rose silently into the pre-dawn sky, their lights fading until they were just bright stars, then nothing at all. I stood there long after they'd gone, pendant warming in my hand, trying to process the last 12 hours. I'd gone for a hike, found an alien girl in a crashed spaceship, saved her life. And somehow ended up with 3 alien warships landing outside my house and a noble family owing me a life debt. Just another day in Montana. I laughed, a slightly hysterical sound, and headed back inside. I had a feeling my quiet life in the woods was about to get significantly more complicated. But as I looked at the crystal pendant catching the rising sun's light, I couldn't bring myself to regret it. I'd saved a child's life. Everything else was just details. Even if those details involved intergalactic noble houses and warships and invitations to see alien crystal forests. Yeah. Life was definitely about to get interesting.